So it's cool that we can make a package so simple, or to make a package it's so simple in Python, but how does it apply to the code that we've written before? So as you can see, now that I actually have this my network package as an example, and if we take a look at my network package, all I have is just the init.py, and also I put everything that we've written so far into alert helpers.py. So what does that look like? If I look at alert helpers.py, everything look the same, with the exception that when I initialize Nornir, I specify a config file in where to specify the inventory and so on. And we're going to take a look at that config file in a bit, but everything else is the same, including this class network object. So I wanted to include this in here as a way to demonstrate that you could have a object, not just functions. You could also have an object where, if you declare a network object, then when you initialize it, you need to give it a host name, an OS, a loopback, and based on that, we're going to determine the number of interfaces. So if I initialize it to be NXOS, then I would, somehow having an arbitrary interface number of 3, or if I do an iOS, that's interface number 2. So basically, that's what it is. But the rest of the code, you should have a pretty good idea by now on what it does. And we're going to take a look at this config YAML file. And this is basically a requirement of Nornir. But, it's what we've seen before, right? Remember when we were talking about the documentation for Nornir, it specified that when you initialize it, you could include a config.yaml file. And this config.yaml file, basically, I'm just saying, in the inventory options, I'm going to use host.yaml. That's it. And the host.yaml file is the same thing that we've seen so far. So that is what we did to make our code into a package. And now let's run it. So let's fire up our Python interpreter, and we'll just say from my network package import alert helpers. And now that is imported, if I look at the dirt, which is looking at what's included in my namespace right now, I could see there's an alert helpers that's present. So if I do alert helpers run command show IP BGP, then it should go out there and remember we have two functions, right? So now we could use both functions within our package, right? So now is show IP BGP, and I could also say alert helpers check route 192.168.0.10, and that should say, hey, the route is there. If I do 13, then my guess is, oh no, time to troubleshoot. So super easy, right? But it's also a very useful way to package or to put everything together into a containable box, and then you could share it with other people. So let's also take a look at what we've talked about before, having an object, a network device object within the package. So if you recall, so this is my network package and alert helper. So at the very end, we actually defined a class of network object, right? So when we define this, we have to declare a host name and OS and loopback. And it actually has a definition of check loopback to say if it has a loopback, and it has another interface init function. So one of the questions that people often ask is, we already have functions, why do we actually need an object, or why do we need a class? Then the answer usually is that because you could actually reuse these functions within the class, and so you additionally save yourself some work. So in this case, when you initialize the object, you already declare an OS, right? So what this function, interface init function, does is it checks that property of the OS, and then based on that automatically assigns you for the interface number. So imagine this would be a N3K, for example, right? So if you declare it to be N3K, then it's 48 Ethernet interface, or versus N9K, which has a lot more interfaces, right? So let's see how it works. it's basically the same, right? So it's just Python and say from my network package import alert helpers, and I am going to declare a R1, and I'm just gonna say alert helpers network object, and remember we need a host name. So let's just say router 1, and then I'm gonna declare to be NXOS, and then I need a loopback, right? So that is my R1, and when I say host name, when I say OS, and then I could call the method within that object. So I would just say interface init, and now if I say R1 interface number, I automatically gets a 3, right? When I declared this, I never told them that this is how many interfaces it has. It purely bases on the fact that it's NXOS as the operating system. So that is a quick demo for a package. I hope you find it easy. I was pretty blown away by how easy it is just to package a bunch of Python code together, and that would naturally lead us to the next section where we talk about how do we distribute the package so somebody else could install it. I'll see you there.